like to welcome you to the Camp Verde Town Council Forum. Before we get started, a little housekeeping, your phones. If it doesn't give you heart failure, it'd be great if you turned them off. Otherwise, put them on vibrate. Before we get started hearing from the council candidates, Mike Showers, who's the Vice President of Finance for the Town of Camp Verde, is going to do a short presentation on Prop 476.
All right, thank you. Yes, I'm Mike Showers, Finance Director for the Town of Camp Verde. They gave me 5 quick minutes just to try and give you a little bit of information about Prop 476. I am doing this in an effort to try and help you understand what it is so that you can make an informed decision on what you think is best for our town. So with that in mind, I kind of want to jump right into it. Prop 476 basically is the town going to the citizens of Camp Verde and asking for your permission to increase what is called our base expenditure amount to basically up $950,000. That $950,000 increase to our base expenditure amount will actually increase the limitation that is placed on us by the state by just under $8 million. So let me explain what that limitation is. The state of Arizona places on every town and city within Arizona a limitation on how much money they can spend. It doesn't matter how much revenue they bring in, it doesn't matter what that city or town needs to do, they have a limit on what they can spend. The limits were originally set back in 1979 and 1980. Ours was set in 86 when we incorporated. Our original limit was $2 million. And in 2020, we did increase our permanent base, or our base amount, by I believe it was about $370,000. And that was for us to take on the water utility, because we could not have taken on the water utility without the operations putting us over that limitation amount. So this limitation grows every year. Okay, they have the base amount, but they apply population and economic factors to that. Every single year it adjusts. In our current year, our limitation is just under $21 million. Now our budget is about $58 million. The reason we can spend $58 million is because they have exclusions within their limitation requirement. So any grants that we get, when we spend grant money, that does not apply towards that limitation expense. When we go out and get debt to do projects through debt, we do not have to apply any of those expenses to the limitation. What has happened, though, in the last couple of years is we had significant growth in revenue, to the point where in this current fiscal year, we are budgeted to only be $400,000 short of our limitation. That's tricky with a $58 million budget. That's why we were asking for the town to allow us to increase our base, to give us room to operate. A great question came up to me just this last week, which was, well, how are you going to spend that extra $8 million? And it's a tricky answer, because my answer is, we're not. We don't have the $8 million. This, what we're asking for with the base limit increase, this does not increase taxes. This does not increase fees. It doesn't increase property taxes, income taxes, or sales taxes. It doesn't increase the amount of revenue we're getting at all. It doesn't change the amount of revenue we're getting. What it allows us to do is, when we've had years like our fiscal year 21, when we had a 41% growth in sales tax that we did not see coming. What happens is, when you get those significant years of growth in income, and the population and economic factors are not growing in a like manner, we start to get closer and closer to that limit. And we get to the point where we cannot spend the money that we are making in any one year, because they're putting a limit on what we can do. That means we have to limit projects, we have to limit services, because we're just not allowed to go over that. The hope with this proposition is that we will just be allowed to spend just the money we bring in. It's important to keep in mind that both in budgeting and in our actual expenditure policies every year, we work hard to make sure we never spend more than we bring in revenue on operations. we focus on that. It is a budget policy, and it is an actual policy we follow to the letter through the middle of the year. And you've seen it this year where we've had to dramatically cut back on expenses to keep them below revenues. And we work hard to do that every single year. The last thing I want to leave you with is this. We have a web page that's dedicated to try and help you understand some of the details behind what a permanent base adjustment is and how it applies to the town. That web page, it's on our web page, which is campverde.az.gov. That's our web page. If you click at the very top of that web page is a banner that says Prop 476. You go to that page, there's information in written form, there's a video, and there's a place to ask new questions that we put in an FAQ. So please call me at the finance department, ask me questions, post questions on that website. We would love to hear them. We just want you to understand what it is that is on the election. Thank you so much, League of Women Voters. Thank you, Greater Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you, Mike.
There's a handout.
Yes, there's a handout at the back table for you to pick up. So again, good evening, and welcome to this forum for Camp Verde Council candidates on the July 30th primary election ballot. Tonight's forum is hosted by the Greater Cottonwood Chamber of Commerce and the League of Women Voters, Northern Arizona. My name is Mary Chiquen, and I am a member of the League of Women Voters and your moderator for this evening. The League of Women Voters, a nonpartisan political organization, envisions a democracy where every person has the desire, the right, the knowledge, and the confidence to participate. The League of Women Voters is an organization fully committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion in principle and in practice. Tonight's forum is also being videotaped by the Verde Independent. It will be available on YouTube coming tomorrow, so I know the League will have it on their site. I'm sure the Chamber will be distributing it. The paper will have it on their site. If you want a link, let Christian know, and I'm sure he'll share it with you. The purpose of this forum is to hear from the candidates on why they want to be a Camp Verde town councilor. It is also an opportunity for candidates to answer questions submitted by the voters to the Chamber of Commerce prior to this forum. The goal of this forum is fairness, civility, and engagement. I would like to introduce our timekeeper, Kathy Davis. Her role is to keep us on time. She has 3 signs, a 1-minute sign, a 30-second sign, and a stop sign. She will raise the 1-minute sign, then the 30-second sign to tell you how much time you have left, and she will raise the stop sign for you to signal the end of your sentence. The forum this evening has 3 parts. The first part is opening remarks, and the candidates have already then provided the question to answer prior to the forum. Also, the candidates have been provided a question by the League of Women Voters, which they will be answering at the end of the forum. Part 2 is the questions that have been submitted by you, the voters. And I will ask those questions in a rotating fashion. The candidates have not seen those questions in advance. And finally, our third part is closing statements. As I get started, I would like to go over the guidelines for the forum. The moderator's role is to manage the forum fairly for the candidates and the audience, with the goal of keeping the discussion moving forward. We ask 4 things of the candidates. Be respectful of each other's points of view, speak your mind freely, do not engage in personal attacks, and do not interrupt one another. The audience is asked to refrain from applauding in any other way, demonstrating support or non-support of candidates and their comments. Time limits on responses to questions will be strictly observed. The moderator will have the responsibility for enforcing the time limits. If these guidelines are not adhered to by the candidates or the audience, The moderator will adjourn the forum. Now I would like to introduce the candidates running for Camp Verde Town Council. The candidates in alphabetical order are Terry Andrews, Jackie Baker, Brian Bolton, Kai Buchanan, Robert Foreman, Dave Inman, Jerry Martin, Jesse Murdoch, Thomas T.C. Noble, Patricia Siebold, Tanner Bryson, and Christine Viola. And is Christine here? Okay. The candidates will speak in the order that was drawn before the forum. We will, as I said, we will rotate the order of answering questions. So Jesse will start, and then I'll just move down the table for who starts the questions. So we will now begin with opening statements, and Jesse is first. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to introduce themselves to the audience and address. When did you move to the community and why? Why are you running for office and why are you the best candidate? What is your experience serving in public office, in the municipality, as a volunteer, and in your career that prepares you to serve in this position? If an incumbent, what was your experience prior to being elected? Jesse.
Do I turn this on?
It's already on, just make sure you're talking into it.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here tonight. My name is Jessie Murdoch, and I am running as an incumbent for your Camp Verde Town Council. I have served on the Town Council for 12 years now, and is this good? Thank you. I have served on your Town Council for 12 years now. My initial move to Camp Verde was 20 years ago. I'm a born and raised Verde Valley resident, 5th or 6th generation Arizona, depending on which grandma you want to pick. My roots run deep in ranching and agriculture. My family had a very large ranch in southern Arizona that ultimately sold to the Nature Conservancy, so I understand the importance of the water and the Nature Conservancy and the relationships that you can have with agencies that can provide good conservation to your community. While I've served on Town Council, we've had quite the budget. Mike Showers spoke earlier of our $58 million budget, but in those few years that I've served, we've been able to purchase the water company and turn that in from a public opportunity, a public company to a public utility. I'm married, I have 2 wonderful children. I love serving. I've worked for this town really hard. I've made lots of friends, and I have an immense love for this community. I have no special interest in this community, so I think that why I'm running isn't for anything in particular other than for the greater good of Camp Verde. I want to serve, I want to provide. I don't want to spend all of the money, but I think the money should be invested wisely back into the community and shouldn't be set out for special interest. It should all be spent and invested back into the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse. Pat?
The audience. My husband and I moved to Camp Verde 5 years ago. We made the decision to move to Arizona to be closer to our son who lives in Scottsdale. We knew that living in Phoenix was not an option for us because we were moving from a farm in Kentucky. We wanted outdoor rural space. This led us to drive up to the Verde Valley and visit a bunch of towns and cities, and the minute we arrived in Camp Verde, we looked at each other and said, this is it. This is where we want to be. We love the feel, we love the people, we love the green, and we love the little horses and agriculture and all the things that go along with Camp Verde. I'm running because, my parents always told me that giving back to a community that gives to you is important. When I arrived here, I became a CASA volunteer, and while I enjoyed that immensely, I decided that I wanted to put my work and education skills to work. I had the opportunity in my job supporting and advocating for people with developmental disabilities to work with local, state, and federal legislators, their staff, and any entity that was working on legislation. I am also a certified mediator, which has helped me immensely in listening skills and hearing all points of view and helping people get through a decision-making process. I feel that my qualifications will give me the ability to listen to the citizens, to make decisions based on what is in the best interest for Camp Verde. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Jerry?
Yes. I am Jerry Geronimo Martin, Chiricahua Apache, and a proud descendant of the legendary Geronimo. I have been married for 25 years. We retired in Camp Verde 7 years ago because we fell in love with it. I am running for office because I am the best candidate. My background is as diverse as the challenges of Camp Verde faces. Serving as a Marine Corps medic in Vietnam with the Walking Dead instilled the values of discipline, service, and resilience. My Bronze Star medal is a testament to my commitment to protecting others. I have been a truck driver, a fiber optic engineer, as well as a resourceful entrepreneur. My experience as a U.S. government contract buyer honed my financial abilities. As a licensed real estate agent, I understand the importance of responsible growth and development. I have been a volunteer at Fort Verde State Park, sharing history with young minds and visitors. I am actively involved in various veteran organizations, ensuring the voices of those who served are heard. I was the MC at the Vietnam Traveling Wall. I am the member of the worship team at Parkside Community Church, and I understand the importance of faith and unity. I am the neighborhood watch captain for our local emergency preparedness team. I am aware of the duties of the councilman, and I am ready, willing, and able to serve in that capacity for you.
Thank you, Jerry. Jackie?
Is this, oh, they're all on, okay.
They're on. You're fine.
May I say when I begin that I'm unable to really see the timekeeper, so if I talk too long, throw something at me. My name is Jackie Baker. I'm currently on council and have been there for many years. My late husband and I moved to Camp Verde 39 years ago. So as one of the volunteers that worked for the incorporation of our town in 1986, I may be one of the last remaining volunteers. I want to continue serving the citizens of the town of Camp Verde. I've done so much volunteer work here that has pleased me so to help all of our citizens. I've also been, as a council member liaison to NACOG, serving as both Secretary Treasurer and Vice Chairman of that organization. I've been an elected trustee for the Arizona Municipal Risk Pool. So, and also I've been a past volunteer over at Fort Verde State Park, which is certainly our treasure that we have here in Camp Verde. We've done so much good work lately in the past few years for the citizens of our town, which hopefully is going to continue bringing the services that all of us need. Oh, thank you, Jerry just reminded me that I'm very close to my time limit. Thank you all for being here this evening.
Robert?
First, I'd like to thank the Cottonwood Greater Chamber of Commerce and the League of Women Voters for putting on this forum. My name is Robert Foreman. I grew up in Prescott. I graduated from Prescott High School. I volunteered for the Army. I did one tour in Nam. I moved to Camp Verde in 1992, which was 32 years ago. In that 32 years, among other things, I've been a small business owner. I've worked with the Kiwanis Club for several years. I coached T-ball for several years. I was on the board of directors for the Chamber of Commerce here. I served as president of the Chamber of Commerce. I also served as the chairman of the Board of Appeals for a number of years. In 2006, I was chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission when we did the 2006 general plan. In 2016, I was the building official, the fire official, and the safety official for the town of Camp Verde when we did the 2016 general plan. I retired from the town 2 years ago. The council reappointed me to the Planning and Zoning Commission, and we're starting this week to take off the 2026 general plan. So this will be my third general plan that I've worked on, and it isn't my first rodeo. I'm here to represent all the citizens of Camp Verde, 100% of them. My campaign platform is simple. I don't take campaign donations. I don't do favors. I don't make promises. I have no personal agenda. I'm here to represent everybody if you honor me with this position. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Hi.
My name's Kai Buchanan, and I've been a resident of Camp Verde here for about the last 4 years. My father moved here in the early 90s. I've been visiting on and off here for the last 20 years. About 4 or 5 years ago, I decided that visiting wasn't enough and I wanted to make this my home. Originally grew up in a little town called Evergreen, Colorado. From there I moved to Illinois and the Iowa area and then transferring down here. I'm currently employed as a lean process engineer for a leading food packaging manufacturer and also work in their medical packaging divisions as well. I teach business practices, what we call lean or continuous improvement practices. I teach businesses how to run more efficiently. I teach them how to set their budgets. I look for fiscal improvement projects, and all in all, I just make them run a lot better. I'm responsible for 13 plants in the United States. We're also looking at taking on 3 additional plants down south in Mexico. I've managed facilities that are as small as 100,000 square feet with 50 employees to up to 1.2 million square feet with 400 employees. I care about this town. I've seen this town change drastically in my 20 years that I've been here. The downtown area looks considerably different from when I first started coming here. We're more geared towards tourism now, and I want to help control growth and attract businesses here, including production, that my son can probably work out one day and have a career as well if he chooses to. I really care about this town, and I want to stick to the general plan, and I want to make sure that we control growth and we attract what we need to do here. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi. Jerry.
Hello. The candidates here. Anyway, a lot of experience. I started out mowing lawns. And I wore my dad's lawnmower out around the neighborhood. But I always made at least $10, $12. From there, I got a job cleaning garbage cans on a restaurant back dock and cleaning the dock. Got $1 for that. But before I left the restaurant, there wasn't a position in the restaurant I couldn't do, whether it was the prep, the back up the dishwasher, the bus tables, back up the fry cook, so on and so on. And from there, I got a job in construction, building the Dunes Golf Course as a laborer. And it was only 2 weeks temporary. I worked for them 3.5 years. They taught me every position on the golf course and so on and so on. And from there, they kept putting me in a position to tell people what to do, and I don't really care to do that, especially when I'm not the foreman. It's not my responsibility. So I went to dealing school, learned how to deal craps in 21 and so on and so on. I'm glad I did it, but it's not me. It's not who I am. So anyway, from there, I took a job as an equipment operator at the Aladdin Hotel. And while I was there, I became an engineer, purchasing agent. was actually worked in all the trades, offered a couple of apprenticeships and so on and so on. And when I left him, I was a senior watch engineer. The MGM opened up, and the only way you could get off graveyard was to get it a new operation. So I went to work there. The bottom line was, I'm sorry. Anyway, I've served on many boards and things of this nature. I've worked in a lot of communities. I've done a lot of good, solved a lot of problems in the city of Las Vegas, also in Cambridge as a building inspector, so on and so on. I can go even here in Camp Verde for 11 years. There's a lot of talent in this valley, a lot of good people, and great administration experience.
Thank you, Terry. TC.
I'm T.C. Noble. I'm a native Arizonan. I was born and raised in Arizona. At 17, I joined the Navy. And then I spent a year in Vietnam with the Marines. Not my idea of a good time, by the way. I spent 25 years in the Navy, and Navy and Navy Reserve. And I spent 25 years with Lockheed. I was the manager of specialty engineering and of system safety, and I was risk manager for the company for almost 10 years. I was involved heavily in youth sports. I have 3 boys, and all of them, by the way, are Eagle Scouts. And I was a Boy Scout leader for almost 20 years because of that. Since I've been here in Camp Verde for the past 12 years, I've been active with the VFW as first I started off as the adjutant, then I became a quartermaster, then I became a trustee. I'm currently the chaplain. I'm a big believer in this little town. We are a rural agricultural community, and there are a lot of people who don't want to see us grow. But I'll tell you, we have to grow. You either grow or you die as a town. And this is a wonderful little town full of absolutely wonderful people. And I think that we need to make sure that we do the best that we can for them at every level. Thank you.
Thank you, TC. Ryan?
Hello, I'm Brian Bolton. My family moved here in 1981, and I would assume it was to get out of Phoenix, just like most people do come to this town, to get out of a bigger city, friendlier place to live. Not real positive what started this for me to run for this, other than I would like to help my community. I'd like to keep it close to the same as it was. I've raised kids here. I've served on the local city football board, the fair board. I don't know if anything really qualifies you for this. I would say probably one of the best things for my qualification is I always answer a phone. I don't know why. Since I was 16, I spent every morning in a coffee shop listening to elders talking about problems and solutions in the valley, and I think that's a great thing. I just want us to stay the same. I know we have to grow and we have to make changes, but I believe we can do it where our kids have a nice place to grow up. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave?
Where's the button for this segment? I'm just kidding. Hi, my name is Dave Inman. I moved to Camp Verde 6 years ago. It was the culmination of having a massive heart attack and looking at my wife and saying, there's absolutely no way I'm going to end up in Phoenix, a land where you don't know your neighbors, and it's just full of heat and hate. I fell in love with this place immediately. Like anybody else here that's moved to Camp Verde or grown up in Camp Verde, it's a magical place. I was just talking to Tanner about the season right now and all the robins running around. There's a lot here to protect and preserve. And yes, we have to grow. We have to grow smartly. And one of the things that I think a lot of us are struggling with is that we're on the precipice of being rural and urban at the same time. How do we preserve our rural heritage and yet still continue to grow past that 14, 20, 30,000 person mark and still maintain who we are as an identity? I honestly never had any political aspirations of any kind. I had a client that I was sitting with. I'm a professional lighting designer. I've been for 25 years, been all across the country doing various lighting design. And he's the public works director in Sedona, and he just sits me down. He's like, "You got to run for something. I don't care what it is, but you got to run for something." And I never thought about it before. And then I started thinking about it, and the next thing you know, it was election season, and I believe I was ranked fourth on the statements of interest. And all I got to say is, look around us. This is the first time in history for Camp Verde and probably a lot of other towns and cities to have this much choice. You're welcome, Camp Verde.
Thank you. Tanner?
Hi there, my name is Tanner Bryson, and I am a write-in candidate for Town Council. I was born and raised in the valley here. I was raised in Cornville. I graduated from Mingus Union High School and went off for a college education at the University of Arizona. Upon graduating from the University of Arizona, I took off on a rodeo career that lasted about 10 years. So I traveled across the country quite a bit and got to meet a lot of wonderful people, got to see a lot of communities. But, you know, the Verde Valley just, it beckoned me to come home. So I came home, I started a ranching and a trail riding and a horse training operation in Cornville. Consequently, we sold that business about 13 years ago, and I was looking for a place to relocate. Growing up in Cornville, it didn't seem like it was really the same as it was as I was growing up in the 70s and 80s. So as I looked around the valley, I looked at Camp Verde, and I'd spent a lot of time in Camp Verde. And so I decided to move my operation over here, where I currently have a horse training operation. I spend most of my time mentoring young kids in Camp Verde with their horsemanship and their rodeo career. I volunteer about 20 hours a week doing that. I also do my horse training and have my trail riding business. But I got involved with politics because I'm a little bit like Brian. I grew up kind of an old soul, and I've seen some policy changes and some stuff happening with our communities, and I'm not really that happy with the trend that's happening. And I'd like to guide Camp Verde forward, but maintain its nature. I'm just getting involved with politics because I have been concerned with other areas and what they have become, and I would like to see Camp Verde grow in a smarter manner and maintain its characters that brought me here.
Our next question will be 1 minute, candidates. Pat, we're going to start with you. And the question is, Camp Verde's general plan will expire in 2026. What is your familiarity with the town's current general plan, and what topics do you feel are important to address in the upcoming amendment process?
I have become very familiar with the current plan and have been using it when I attend council meetings to see if I agree with the direction they're going as it relates to the plan. I am very invested in the character areas. I think those are really important. In the next plan, I would suggest or recommend or work with possibly getting those a little bit more fine-tuned, maybe breaking down some of the character areas into smaller bits. I think that the current council is striving to adhere to the current plan, and as a town council member, I will do the same thing.
Thank you. Jerry?
Camp Verde's general plan has been devised And the amount of people that went into devising that plan went through a lot of effort. A lot of science went into it, a lot of diversity went into it. Is probably, in my opinion, one of the most perfect plans that I have seen in any particular town that I have visited throughout this country. As far as the construction of it, you can't beat it. In fact, I would say that our plan in this town is probably a good model for other surrounding towns to follow and emulate. Being that well constructed, I'd say that very little change should be given to it. I have seen some of the changes that I don't agree with, but again, that depends on somebody's viewpoints. But I always think, why would you want to try to invent the wheel?
Thank you, Jerry. Jackie?
I think Jerry put it very well, that it is such an excellent plan, and we've been proud of it for the past 10 years. I think the reason for that, much of the reason for that, is the interest and work that was put into creating that, updating the past plan before that by citizens of our town. So they participated with their great ideas and good effort in creating that. And I think all of us are very proud of the character areas that are in there. We have hired a consultant to help us, and we will be addressing that actually this week as a preliminary work on updating that plan. I feel fairly certain that we won't need to make a lot of changes to what is existing, but updating that and reviewing that is going to give us something even better for our community.
Thank you, Jackie. Robert?
I'm very familiar with the 2016 general plan. We worked on it for at least a couple years anyway. These things take time to do. I appreciate Jerry's compliment on the job the town did with the 2016 general plan. As Jackie mentioned, we will be kicking off a joint session with planning and zoning and the council to start the 2026 general plan. The 2016 general plan is a great base to start with. The character areas are very important. I don't see any potential for those going away. If anything, we may refine it and have even more character areas, break them into smaller pieces. But anyway, we'll be working on that. We need public input, we need public buy-in, and we definitely need the public to attend the meetings and give us their opinions and give us their thoughts. It's very important for everybody in the town to be involved in it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Kai?
I'm very familiar with the general plan, roughly all 180 some odd pages of it. The 10 character areas, everything listed in it. I love the idea of the expansion that we have going on out on 260. Boulder Creek shows some promise. The economic development we have out there shows promise as well. I think we need to protect the town, the downtown area, Finney Flat area, control some of the growth that we've seen in there, whether it be RV parks or something like that. Protect the neighborhoods, protect the 10 character areas, and be mindful where we are putting the development that we're approving and rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you. Jerry?
Well, as being a contractor in 3 different states, California, Nevada, and Utah, property development and things of this nature, I've got some pretty good experience. I developed all the property in Lockman, Nevada, between the riverside and the Edgewater. I'm the gentleman who brought the sewer system to Laughlin, Nevada. I've been a building inspector. I worked for a lot of entities. I've been on the Board of Adjustments, bring money into our community in Page, Arizona. I was also appointed to the Board of Adjustments, and that was pretty interesting. I could go on and on, but a lot of things that I did in Las Vegas were actually life-saving. We created a lot of the things the first time. I was also taught for the University of UNLV, and we created the hospitality industry. So when you're talking about development, I've got some pretty good background there. Thank you.
Thank you. TC.
Camp Verde's general plan in general is outstanding. Like any document that's been written, though, it needs updating. One of the things that we need to update is some of the verbiage that we use so it's easily understood by everybody. It's a good plan. If you sit down and you read the plan, you come away feeling like somebody really put some time, effort, and experience into this plan. Yes, there are some things that really need updating on it, but in general, you're going to be hard-pressed to find a better plan anyplace. My comment is we need to make it clearer. We need to make it so that everybody understands what it says.
Thank you.
Brian?
Well, as I'm familiarizing myself with the general plan, like they said, almost 200 pages of it, the people that are on that came up with it had a very good site. 10 years is a hard time to look ahead. I think it's, from what I've read, it's pretty much where we've headed. I think the second part of this question was, what would I bring to this if I was a part of it? And it would be questions, because that's all I have is questions. And that's what gets us through this, is to tell what is right for the council or the town and what people want.
Thank you. Dave?
So I am definitely familiar with the 2016 general plan. It is a long read.
Can't hear you.
I'm definitely familiar with the plan. It is a long read, but I would say the document has aged well. It is something that is a reflection of what the voters of Camp Verde wanted to see. And it's important that we embody that document as a council, and whatever the next document is that we're required to produce. This is something that is the guiding light for the town itself, how we want to grow, why we want to grow, who we want to be.
Tanner?
I am familiar with the general plan, and I think it's a good plan. But my concerns have been and are that the council has to implement those policies that follow the plan. Over the last decade or so, I've been involved in a lot of town stuff, business and otherwise. And too often I've seen our council not vote. I've seen them sit back and fail to do what they're elected to do. So as I look through the plan, of course I'm very much centered on the protection of our character areas. And I'm centered on agriculture and keeping our community rural, but also watching it grow successfully. But my main objective being on the council is to hopefully influence and implement the votes that follow that plan. It's more than just a guiding light. It should be our map for the future.
Thank you. Jesse?
Thank you, Mary. I'm very familiar with the general plan that was just adopted 8 years ago, and we will be working very diligently in the next few years on the 2026 general plan. But the general plan is a very public process that is implemented through our community development department. There's lots of public engagement, open houses, forums that allow each neighborhood or anybody in the community to have their public input. So it's approved by the voters, that goes out to the general vote. It's divided into the character areas, which help council, planning and zoning, developers, members of the community, if they are just interested in what's happening with the community, what those character areas define. So if there's industrial, there's residential, mixed-use housing. So it kind of follows along with what some of the your zoning regulations would follow. So M1 and 2, commercial, residential, rural 1, R1, L70, so these things. It's just a guidance for the community, the town council, and the public for development. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse. Our next question, Jerry, we're beginning with you. It is 1 minute, and the question is, what is your understanding of the council manager form of government? What is the council's role in supporting the success of your new town manager?
That's great, okay. The town council is also known as the town council is also known as a city council member serving as part of the governing body as its specialized geographical areas of their responsibilities, which also include the new laws, voting for legislation, budgeting oversights, monitoring city agencies, land usage and reviews, commonly engagements, and project management. The town manager falls within the jurisdiction of the council. The town manager is an autonomous individual that takes care of the actual town from that forth on. Only the council can do recommendations to the town council. I mean, the town manager, get that correct. As we have a new town manager, I hope we can be more encouraged to help her do her job rather than having other people do her job for her or with her. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jerry. Jackie?
The town council directs the manager to carry out the work of our town and our policies and procedures. Communication with that person, our one main employee that we as the council representing you, the citizens, to get the work done for the entire town. And that communication and respect, working with that individual, is the secret to our success. And the person, our new manager, is an excellent example of our inspection, our research, our endeavor to get the best person available for our town.
Thank you, Robert.
Council manager form of government is one of my favorite topics. Basically, the town council sets the policy and sets the direction for the town, and the town manager executes that policy in that direction. The town manager's main function is to act as a buffer between the political body, which is the 7 elected officials, and the paid professional town staff. It's very important to have that separation. The last thing you want is to have 7 council people trying to direct department heads and trying to direct HR decisions. So the town manager position, you need a strong town manager who's willing to keep the line between the council and a paid professional staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Kai?
To break it down pretty simply, town manager manages the town. He or she manages the people that work for the town. The council itself, we're elected by the people and we work for you. We help give guidance to the town manager and help relay the information that you guys elected us for to be able to help drive those decisions with the town manager. Thank you.
Jerry?
The town manager really serves at the pleasure of the council. In my experience in running 2 of the largest hotels and casinos in the world, and it's multifaceted. It's larger than any city you ever been, as complicated as any city you ever want to live in. I could be a good voice for the council in respects to the duties, whether it's law enforcement, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's development, planning, so on and so on. I can lend myself to that. That's what I would bring from my experience to the council. Thank you.
Thank you. TC?
The town council's job is to provide the experience, knowledge, and research that the town manager needs to be able to provide the direction to the employees of the town. One of the major issues, though, is they have to be able to meet the public also. The public has to be involved in the town council's decisions. One of the issues that we currently have is that frequently we do things, the council does things that the town doesn't understand. Many of our town members have expressed that specific experience. But the town manager is in fact the manager of the town.
Thank you. Brian?
So basically, in a simple way, we are the middleman. We are supposed to take what the people, the citizens of our town want and provide it to the manager. And that's as simple as I can put it, and that's what I'm going to leave it.
Thank you. Dave?
It seems like it's been answered several times already. The council is 7 separate votes, all equal, and they are the voice of people that gets distilled down to the town manager. The town manager then directs the employees of the town.
Thank you. Tanner?
So my understanding is all of us sitting up here are vying to be your employee. And our job is to facilitate the voice of the voters. And we're supposed to listen to the town and find out what policies that we need to vote and enact so that our manager has direction led by the community. And the town manager is accountable to the council. And in my opinion, I feel like that every town employee should be accountable. Every action, every dollar spent, if it comes down to audits, whatever it takes, there needs to be a level of transparency and accountability from the council and our manager. And if the town manager is not doing their job and they're not being accountable, then we need to find a new one. But the council has to have the courage to vote for the voice of the people. We are your employee and we work for you, and we should answer the phone and make sure that those policies are enacted that were voted in accordance to what the voters want.
Thank you. Jesse?
The council manager form of government is very specific. It is set by state statute that where we are a separation of powers. We have public policy that was set through legislative and judicial policy. There's this very specific separation of power. I, as a single person of council, 1 of 7, has no majority vote over any of the other people that I serve with on the council. I get to give no and 0 specific direction to the town manager. All of the business that is held and direction given is given through the public meetings and the very public vote. We set the budget, so it is our budget to follow through the year. Anything over the $50,000 mark would come to the council for approval, but it is the town manager to run and direct each department and department head through the direction that we give at a public meeting as the will of the council of the people that comes through us through the,
Thank you.
My understanding of the role of the council and the town manager is the town manager reports to town council, and the town manager facilitates and supervises the employees. So it's almost like a little bit of a gatekeeper. The council informs the town manager what their vision is, and the town manager is then left to help direct staff in fulfilling whatever that opportunity is or whatever the council's requesting. It can be a very difficult role, but it can also be very rewarding. And it's very important that the council understand their boundaries and allow the town manager to do their job.
Thank you. Our next question will also be 1 minute. Jackie, we're going to start with you. And the question is, what is your understanding of Proposition 476, and why do you support or oppose it?
I support the proposition due to the, I'm searching for the words why. It allows us to address the needs of this community without a concern or a shortfall of the base expenditure limit. The legislature set this up a number of years ago before we were even incorporated. So many years with the things that we wanted to do with CIP, with purchasing utilities, has not allowed us to move forward as rapidly or at the time we needed to. And this will help us going forward in the future.
Thank you. Robert?
I absolutely support Proposition 476. I think everybody should vote for it. The short version is it allows us to spend money that we already have on hand. It does not increase any taxes of any kind whatsoever. And the state encourages municipalities when they hit that limit to take short-term loans. By being able to spend money we already have, instead of being forced to take short-term loans and paying the interest and extra closing costs, it actually saves the town money. So yes, I'm going to vote yes on Prop 476.
Thank you. Kai?
Yes, I'm in full support of Prop 476. It's a base adjustment that allows us to spend the money that we already have without putting burden onto our citizens. This isn't going to be the last base adjustment we have. Probably where we're going, we're going to have to look at it again several years down the road again. But in support of the town and making sure that we don't need to take out loans when we don't have to and we have the cash reserves to take care of it, it just makes sense.
Thank you. Terry?
It sounds like a good thing, and I would support it also. The truth of the matter is, as long as we spend that money wisely and prudently, and it benefits the community, and we keep the theme of the community, I would be for it. Thank you.
TC?
476 is essential for the town. It allows us to spend the money that we have coming into the town. And where we now can only spend up to a limit that the state has established. 476 is an essential part of us being able to grow as a community and yet still stay as a rural environment.
Thank you. Brian?
Thank goodness for Mike Showers on this one, because he explained it to me, and he's explained it to everybody else. That's why we have it. It's really great. It's something that I would support. It's money that we have coming to us anyway, and it doesn't raise any of our taxes. And I'm with everybody else, as long as we spend it wisely. There's nothing wrong with it. Thank you.
I definitely agree that we should vote yes on 476. Again, it does not affect any taxation of any kind. It simply raises the available base limit for our spending. Something that as we grow, and something that I've mentioned several times in the past, as we have people, that are moving in 45 minutes south of us that realize it's really, really hot in the summertime, start looking a little further north and discovering Camp Verde. That additional fundage is going to absolutely be necessary. Again, we want services, things like that. That's where we pay for those services, or have the ability to pay for those services by adjusting that base spending limit.
Thank you. Tanner?
I'm also in support of the proposition. I think that it needs to come with some strict oversight. If we look at the American dollar, it's really not what it used to be. And so on that fact alone, there's probably an opportunity that we need to raise the amount of money that we can spend where it goes. But we also need to have oversight on where that goes. We need to make it match our general plan, and we need to invest in safety and infrastructure and things that government is designed to do. So with that money, I think that it would definitely benefit our town. I like the fact that it doesn't raise taxes, but I do think it needs to come with some strict guidelines on where that money is spent.
Thank you. Jesse?
Thank you, Mary. Yes, I support the Proposition 476. It's vital to our budget success. It allows the town to budget for the growth of the revenues and expenditures that we incur every year. The cost and value of spending, since it was set in the early 80s, has changed. And lastly, in the last few years, it's vital to use this increase in our budget to balance the budget and to continue to support the expenditure limit expansion, or the raising of the base expenditure limit. It keeps the local control of our tax dollars that are raised here within our community, We get to keep that money and spend it locally, and that's what's most important. Thank you.
Thank you. Pat?
When I talk to people about the Proposition 476, I am often asked, how much is this going to cost me? Well, it's not going to cost you anything. And that's the beauty of it, is that it's a opportunity for us to prepare for future growth and budget for it without having the constraints that were set in place when the town was incorporated. I absolutely support this measure, and I hope the community will think so also. Thank you.
Jerry?
I definitely support 476. It's a 5-year reserve. What it is not, it's not any means of raising any taxes or setting up for any means of giving any additional wages for the council or anything like that. But what it does do is a nest egg as for an emergency, for as an example, a disaster that would require a large amount of money all at once.
Thank you. Our next question will be 1 minute. Robert, you're up for this one. Camp Verde adopted its first strategic plan in 2024. What elements of the plan resonate with you most? What is your commitment to strategic planning for the community going forward?
Strategic planning is essential. We have to plan ahead. We have to have our strategic plan in place. I support the current plan the council has passed. We need to work on the sports complex. We need to work on revitalization of the downtown area. So if you don't think ahead, if you don't have a strategic plan, you're just fumbling around in the dark and you don't know what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Kai?
The strategic plan is very important. There's a lot of patterns in there that you can look for. $2.9 million budgeted for the sports complex, $100,000 budgeted for the general plan this year for its creation, all the way down to the police department and their requests for additional firearms. There's a lot of information in there that we need to look at and be responsible for. I'm a numbers guy. I like to know where we're spending our money and why we're spending our money. The strategic plan does just that. We just need to be accountable for what we're spending and look for the patterns of why. Thanks.
Thank you. Terry?
Accountability, being transparent is really paramount. Committees can do a lot of good if we put them together, we get them out there, and we do the research, and so on and so on. It's a good idea if you get the right expertise working for you for the city here.
TC?
Planning is essential if you're going to do it right. The question that you always have is, do we have enough money to implement the plan? And do we have to extend the plan such that we don't do it as rapidly as we like? A good, solid plan starts with doing the research up front to ensure that we can in fact do it with the money that we have.
Thank you. Ryan?
Well, by the time it gets to us, we've been answered. It really is. It is. We have to start with something, and that's what you start with, is a plan. And again, you need to make sure you apply the money and the manpower to where it needs to be the most. That plan falls in less time than our general plan, so that helps too. Halfway. And that's really all I can say other than what everybody else has said.
Dave?
We're almost done with this one. You know, the strategic plan is how we get to or through the general plan, right? So the general plan is our map or guiding light The strategic plan is the nuts and bolts of how we get there. The things that really resonate with people, obviously the revitalization of downtown, ensuring and enshrining that we make, businesses out the 260 corridor along the opportunity zones as opposed to downtown, finding the funding mechanisms, the grants, those types of things in order to get from point A to point B.
Thank you. Tanner?
So just being from the private sector in business, every business has to have a strategic plan. If you don't have one, you're going to be kind of lost at sea. But that plan has to be adaptable, and we have to look at a return on investment and where that money is spent and what policies we are going to enact to work that strategic plan. Your goal is the general plan. The strategic plan is enacting those policies to help get to the general plan. So there's a lot of good things in the strategic plan, but I want to see most of our money spent on supporting our local businesses, helping our contractors gain ground, streamlining permits, and helping this thing move forward in a quick fashion.
Thank you. Jesse?
Thank you. The strategic plan that was adopted just most recently by the town council was a lot of work, and it was what I felt like threw popcorn in the air. And then we all just kind of, like every popcorn piece had a what we wanted for the town. And the more we worked through that process, we realized as we gathered our pieces of popcorn, those popcorn pieces became a little popcorn ball. And they all meant something really important to each and every one of us. And through that strategic plan, we adopted a vision and a mission. And don't fault me for not remembering word for word what each one of those are, but it was a lot. And it just allows the town to project our budget and where we're going, where we want to invest, what we want to see for our community. Keeps us from hopping and skipping around when something big and new and shiny shows up. It allows us to say, this is what we want. This is what we want to see. This is how we want to grow. This is how we want to develop. It doesn't restrict us from seeing that big shiny thing, keeping it back there in the back of our mind and thinking, one of these days that might be really exciting, but it sets us up for great development and allowing us to follow those steps to complete the vision of the town.
Pat?
A strategic plan is only as good as the people that are responsible for implementing it. And I believe that this current council has been very dedicated to making that happen and using it as that tool. The plan will always need updating, revisions as new things come along or as they achieve some of the action steps in the strategic plan. I'm very excited I was very excited to see it. I could not find another one in the history of Camp Verde. This may have been a first, which is awesome. But I think that it is a great starting point and it will be a great place to continue to move Camp Verde forward.
Jerry?
Focusing on the future should start with consulting with professionals such as project management, setting up for infrastructure, police departments, roads, schooling, careful planning. Careful planning also requires environmental impact studies issued before any new and plans for the future, so that there's no hiccups that you want to have nightmares for later.
Thank you. Jackie?
As Jesse noted, we worked very hard on this, but what was really great and productive about it, establishing this plan, was council and the entire staff working on it together with the ideas and the effort put into that to prepare a real plan that we are going to utilize. We've had lots of plans through the years, but sometimes we didn't hold true to those plans. This one is going to work, and my favorite part of it is the goal to involve our citizens more in accomplishing the things that we set forward in that plan. It's going to work, and we hope that more and more people living in our community will join in accomplishing that.
Thank you. Kai, you're up for the next question. It will be 1 minute, and the question is, Camp Verde is currently considering a number of amendments to its zoning code. Animal point counts, conditional and by right uses, planned area developments. What is your familiarity with these issues, and what other areas of the code may need to be addressed?
I think the importance of animal points has been greatly overstated. It's important to our community, yes, but when the public could respond, less than 1.5% of the public responded and gave their opinion on it. People in Verde Views, people in Verde Lakes, there's a lot of voting communities around here that aren't affected by animal points. Animal points is important though. Code is important, and as we're growing, we're dealing with a homeless situation. We may need to look at RV usage on properties and what we can do to help people out there, but without putting our town in jeopardy with other issues, vagrancy, stuff like that. It's important. We have a lot of issues coming up. When we rezone, or when we rezone an area within the protected character areas, and it doesn't really fit what we're trying to do, it's an issue. We just need to pay attention to all that.
Thank you. Terry?
Well, we all love our animals, there's no doubt about that. And whether it's horses, dogs, cats, it doesn't matter. But we all have to live by ordinances that the city has, and we should adhere to them. If it's not acceptable, then the majority will get together and we'll change it. But the truth of the matter is, I would support what we have right now. Thank you.
Probably the biggest problem with our ordinances is enforcement. When we have someone who fails to follow the ordinances, follow the rules, it causes a problem for those people around them. One of the issues that we have on a regular basis is we have someone who violates an ordinance and there is no action, there is no consequence for that. One of our issues on a continual basis is we see things, we make note of them, but nothing comes from our complaint.
Thank you. Brian?
Enforcement officer to enforce for almost 43 square miles. I think that's a very tough call for anyone. And I think that that's something that we need to do, maybe that Basin Judgment will assist in being able to hire an additional code enforcement officer, maybe a mediator, so people can actually have a discussion as opposed to getting down to brass tacks.
Thank you. Tanner?
So I'm a believer in American freedom, and I believe that our society's existed for years without super stringent regulations and codes. I don't think Camp Verde is an HOA. I think there's private property rights, and I think government intrusion is bordering on being too much at this point. So I'm not a proponent of more codes. I'm not a proponent of more regulation. I mean, for crying out loud, should you really have to go get a permit to put a new water heater in your house? So I'm of the opinion that we are smart, we're a smart society. What were we doing in the 70s before all these codes came around? We talked to our neighbor, we got along. We may not like what they do, but that's their choice. It's all about American freedom, and I'm for less government, not more.
Thank you. And I've been asked to read the question again. Thank you. Camp Verde is currently considering a number of amendments to its zoning code. Animal point counts, conditional and by right uses, planned area developments. What is your familiarity with these, and what other areas of the code may need to be addressed?
Can I ask for clarification on that? Is that okay?
No.
Okay. I'm very familiar with this. Sat through some hours and many meetings, but it breaks it down into private property owners have private property rights. We live in the most modern times that we've ever lived in, and unfortunately. That comes with rules and regulations now that have just trickled up or down depending on how you want to look at that process. Code should change as the community changes, within reason. We need to make sure that we were following along with the way our community is growing. Everybody wants to have animals, but you can't have too many because then it becomes a public safety issue or public health issue. But who am I to decide who gets to have all of that? Planned area developments are very vital to make sure that you're setting up your community or your neighborhood correctly to have the right neighbor. Industrial areas and industrial zones, community neighborhoods and community zones, agriculture areas, stay agriculture, and being able to use your private property, I think you should be able to use it how you would like. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat.
I will admit that the current code issues that have surfaced in Camp Verde, I'm still learning to understand. I have spent time, I am still learning, I'm still trying to understand the concerns of both sides on the zoning issues that have been brought, the animal count and the motocross thing. I have spoken to people who are on both sides of the issue, and it has been an incredible learning experience. I believe that some of the codes in Camp Verde right now are A, very difficult to understand, and B, are not being implemented fairly across the board. That brings a great deal of concern to me. People need to understand what the code says, and if there is a reason to address it with someone, it needs to be done fairly across the board. I am in favor of looking at the current, I'm done.
Thank you, Pat. Jerry?
To start off, what I have to say, I agree with Jesse, almost wholeheartedly. I would have to say that the presentations that were presented for both those topics, the animal count and the motocross, were so skewed, unscientific, and that should this ever be passed, that it needs to be ratified, and it should be up to the public, you people, to decide what should be done, not the council.
Thank you. Jackie?
I think, well, we all know that it is time to review our zoning ordinances and the issues that have come about, probably because we are kind of running a little bit behind in really reviewing all of this. We had been planning on it until these recent issues came about. So it is just time for us all of us, to review those things and have input. And as it happens, we are going to have a work session on Wednesday with our Planning and Zoning Commission, which we can discuss some of these things perhaps at that time. What we try to do with these issues is be as respectful and fair to our citizens and their property rights. Thank you.
Thank you. Robert?
I'm quite familiar with the revisions and the work being done on the residential accessory uses ordinances, and also on the motocross, and also on the planned area development, because I have to go to all the meetings. I do not accept the premise that code enforcement is arbitrary, capricious, biased. I don't believe that is the case at all. The issue is turnover in code enforcement staff, changes in policy from the town council. We need to quit going down these rabbit holes of animal counts and motocross, and we need to concentrate on the nuisance ordinances, make them more understandable, more enforceable, and more easily understood, and more measurable. Thank you.
Thank you. It is now the time in the program we're going to address the League of Women Voters question. Terry, we're going to start with you. This again, we're moving into a 1-minute question because of time limitation. And the question that the candidates received ahead of time is, as the Verde Valley continues to grow, what does growth look like to you in Camp Verde? Specifically, tell us what you plan to do in your elected role.
Well, we're an agricultural little town. I'd like to see it stay the same. That should be paramount for what we do here. Growth is going to happen. There's no two ways about it. We're going to have to control it. We're going to have to look at everything seriously. The people that want to come here, we're going to have to vet them very seriously. If we want to keep the flavor that we have right now. That's the reason I moved here, is I like Camp Verde, and I like the way it is. That's about it.
Thank you. TC.
Camp Verde is, as I've said before, a rural agricultural community. We're going to grow. There will be areas that are going to change from what they are now. But we need to make sure that as we grow, that we do not change the flavor of our community, that we don't change who we are. I love this little community and want it to stay pretty much the same as it is.
Thank you. Ryan?
Our town is definitely growing. There's no stopping it, and we don't want to stop it. We definitely need to preserve areas of agriculture that we have. There's plenty of other places to build subdivisions and whatever we need to build. Hopefully, we will get more places to go for people to eat, to do things in industries. Again, specifically to what you plan to do in this elected role is ask questions and find out why or where or when we want to do something. And is it going to benefit the public? Thank you.
Thank you. Dave?
So I believe there's certain things that we definitely have to focus and double our effort and focus on. Some of those obviously would be the conservation of our watershed, the adherence and maintenance of our, interesting feedback there, our rural and western heritage, making sure that we as a community can still feel and look in a similar fashion to when we first got here.
Thank you. Tanner?
I've seen a lot of our little towns in this valley, just in this valley and other places that have at some point lost their character. Sedona, for instance, when I grew up as a kid in Sedona, it was really a wonderful place. Still beautiful, it's still wonderful, but it has truly lost its identity. I mean, in Sedona, they tell you what color you can paint your house. I'm for American ingenuity, and I'm for smart growth. I'm for protecting our agricultural areas, and to me, that's paramount. I don't want to see a sea of cookie cutter homes here. I personally have seen enough RV parks, but I think that our most important job is to protect the character of Camp Verde.
Thank you. Jesse?
Thank you, Mary. It's been interesting to watch the Verde Valley grow over my lifetime, and having a husband whose family was a pioneer family here, I know it's completely changed when it first started as a fort. So looking at where our town is growing and continuing to move forward in a trajectory of like, who are we, what are we going to become, what are we preserving, it's very important to preserve a few things that matter most, which is our open space, our rural lifestyle, which we all moved here to love. Is that the river? Did I say the river? Got all these notes scrambled here, so I'm trying to make sure I get through them all. So the local impacts when businesses come to town, when they show up, what are they going to do? How are you going to support us? What are you going to draw from our resources? What is the impact that you are going to put to our community? So I look to follow our general plan, our strategic plan, what they are going to bring to our budget. Is it an industrial, is it a revenue? Is it going to cost us to support them? Are they going to be able to support them on our infrastructure? What type of public-private partnerships do we have to work through? But I look at preserving who we are as Camp Verde and maintaining our rural image. Thank you.
Thank you. Kat?
think when we're talking about growth, we can refer ourselves back to the 10-year plan and the new one that's upcoming for 2026. That will be our roadmap for the future and will dictate how this community wishes to grow and where it wishes to grow. I think it's very important that anytime the council does deliberation, it looks at the impact that it will have on the infrastructure, how it will affect the citizens of Camp Verde, especially those who may live close to. How will it impact housing? Will it be, and especially affordable housing, will we have the services necessary to support the industry or the, and I agree with the RV park situation. So looking at responsible growth and maintaining our rural character is going to be a huge factor, I think, for everyone as we move forward.
Thank you. Jerry?
Clarification, this is our closing remarks.
No, it's not.
Oh, it's not?
This is the lead question. The last question will be closing remarks.
Okay, well, what is the question?
The question
Get ahead of
is,
myself.
as the Verde Valley continues to grow, what does growth look like to you in Camp Verde? Specifically, tell us what you plan to do in your elected role.
What I plan to do is have controlled growth. We need growth. Growth is going to be inevitable, but it has to be slow growth. It has to be planned growth. We have to have the infrastructure to support the growth that we have. Within that, we have to realize that we are no longer a rural area. We have become an urban area, which we've been an urban area for a couple of decades already. We are a growing town, but the main industry of our particular town happens to be tourism. Within tourism, we need to have more advertisement to bring in revenue. As far as better revenue is the homelessness, I think we need to, for the citizens, and mind you, I'm saying the citizens, we should be our own HOA and have that revenue come into the town.
Thank you. Jackie?
Regarding the growth, I was thinking of this just today. We have averaged here in Camp Verde for the past several years an 11% growth to our community. And I think the best way to address smart growth is to stick with the established plans that we have. And they are living documents, of course, that will be updated as needed. We've also established infrastructure that hopefully will help any developers that come in to provide the needed services that our citizens want. Also, I want to remind y'all that from early December 1986, when we incorporated, we have grown here in Camp Verde. Literally thousands of people have moved in. Families, people that have contributed to our volunteer activities. So if we keep doing what we've been doing, and a really good job of it, I personally think, from all of you, as well as current and past councils, keep doing what we've been doing.
Robert?
Since I first moved here in the early 90s, the general consensus has always been that reasonable economic development should occur along the I-17 and 260 corridors while maintaining our single most vital asset that we have in Camp Verde, and that's the Verde River. Any development has to take into account water usage, also has to take into account protection of our night skies. But the development should be along the I-17 and 260 corridors. It should be smart, it should be deliberate, it should not be done in a hurry. And we need to maintain our rural areas, our rural agricultural areas, as much in the rest of Camp Verde as we can. And the character areas are very vital to that process. Thank you.
Thank you. Kai?
I agree with Robert in regards to the developments out on 260, protecting the general plan, protecting our downtown area, but most importantly, growing the events that we're doing in downtown, growing our farmers market. I think think that's an untapped resource that we could really grow and develop into something special here. Help growing and attracting business back into the downtown area and Finney Flat area as well. Looking at the events that we put on, Pecan Festival, the estimated attendance has dropped by 1,000 attendees each year over the last 3 years. Why is that happening, and how can we make that festival bigger and better? Vendor count has increased by 10 each year, but the participation has been down. So what can we do to fix that and grow and make more events here and make it more special? Thank you.
Thank you. We've come to the place now in the program where we are at closing comments. Each candidate will have 1 minute to make closing comments.